Hello and or I was gonna say happy Thursday. Shit, it's Saturday. Happy Saturday. It's nice, cool Saturday morning here in Wheaton. With 60 degrees. It's a beautiful day outside. Wife decided to go out shopping, so why not DGen? I mean, what else is there to do, right? We have three fun cards going today. We got Santa Anita starting a little bit later. We got some Churchill Downs here, and then we got I don't know. I mean, Caleb, have we settled on is this really Belmont or is this really Aqueduct?
It's Aqueduct. And it kills me that they call it something different and they went through all of this shenanigans to rename it. It's Aqueduct. There's some Belmont Stakes races that are being held here, but it's Aqueduct. I mean, in trying to find track trends and looking up historical data, it's just a pain in the ass now that they've created this new like ADW entry because a lot of the statistics are misrepresented or just actually blank because they don't find this meet in any of the, the records. So it's annoying. I know they corrected like the course name in like the past performance on Brisnet and DRF, which is some small help, but most of their databases still don't see it that way. So it's annoying, but life goes on.
What's more annoying, that or Churchill not running on the turf?
Um, that's a tough one because like if Churchill was on the turf, I probably still wouldn't play Churchill, but and I would play Aqueduct regardless. This one impacts me more, but on the whole, I would have to say Churchill is more annoying.
Yeah. And there's one thing that we didn't mention is there is a pick six force out at Gulfstream Park today. Are you going to look at that at all, Caleb?
I am not. Nope.
I thought there was not a carryover that you were not interested in.
I mean, I'm interested in it, but it's Gulfstream. I mean, what is the carry anyway? Is it like $2 million?
No, I don't think so. I think it's
Because if it's like 150K, then I could care less.
I actually don't know what the carry is. I saw some guys in Discord talking about it, and I was like,
It's 410,000 apparently.
That's not nothing.
It's not nothing. We'll see. We'll see what time. I don't know what time the first post for that carry goes off. I may Josh handicap the sequence and put in like a $20 ticket just to hope and a prayer. But no, that's a track I do terribly at and I don't enjoy.
Yeah, well, I Josh handicapped the Aqueduct pick six sequence yesterday, and I ended up with a $192 ticket, which I believe I told somebody that they were supposed to stop me when I did stupid shit like that, but I don't. No one stopped me.
Unlucky. What'd you end up? Did you go 5 out of 6 or 4 out of 6?
4 out of 6. I didn't have that. Was it? It was a Pratt horse in that last race. I didn't have it. I had.
That sucks.
I had the 1 and the 5 in there, and then I didn't have your horse, that 8 horse in the. Was it second to last leg?
It was the the 8 or the 9 horse. I forget what his name was. It was first something or other was the horse.
Yeah, I didn't have that one. I had all the rest of them though, but 4 out of the 6 does not pay anything. So.
I'm sure that paid huge for whoever hit it. There was a couple uncovered combinations left for a double carry going into that last race.
I was actually curious because I was talking with Mark, or I had asked Mark Midland because I thought this was the kind of thing that he knew, but I was asking, I was like, how much do you think the 4 out of 5 paid was going to pay? But 5 out of 6 was going to pay, and he's like, I have no idea. 5 out of 6 paid $692 yesterday.
That's a nice consolation, especially considering you probably have it more than once.
Yeah, I would have had it 4 times.
Yeah.
So that's just like, man, what could have been there? But no, it was it's probably the first time I actually took a close look at Aqueduct or Belmont this meet. I've maybe spot played it a little bit, but I don't know. I normally don't mind Aqueduct in the fall and winter and early spring, but I don't know, something about I think I've always just avoided this Belmont fall meet in general because Churchill's running, which I know. Luckily, Mark's not here to just wax poetic about how I'm an idiot for betting Churchill. But Churchill's running, Santa Anita's running, Keeneland will be starting soon. So I don't know. Belmont just kind of doesn't really do much for me. But yeah, so I capped the early for both Churchill and Belmont. And Caleb, we were talking a little bit offline that you looked at the first race at Churchill and just said no, and decided to just kind of just leave it be.
It is one of the worst races I think I've ever seen. Yeah, I don't play Churchill anyway, as we've kind of talked about, but I'm like, well, if Josh wants to talk a little Churchill, I'll at least have something prepared. And I just looked at that race and I'm like, absolutely not. Like half of these horses are like 0 for 15. It's a basement level maiden claimer. Like I want nothing to do with this race.
Yeah, I always love when you're at the basement level and you got like this four horse was actually running for less. And, he was running for
Yes,
5,000.
actually.
So it's
What's a
I don't
sub
know.
basement or just below the basement?
Yeah. Um, I'll run through. I think we got like what 40 minutes, 30 minutes. I'm gonna put a early pick five ticket in. Basically trying to get around the cheap horses here or the low price horses here, but we'll talk about that a little bit closer. I think there's a little bit more depth in this early at Belmont. You got a couple maidens I think in the sequence. And I actually I thought this would be a fun exercise because normally when we do these, right, we come in with these capped. We know what horses that we want and everything. I capped this morning, and I really haven't made any concrete decisions on where I'm going to go in some of these races. So I thought this would be fun. This would be fun to talk through, see kind of where you landed. Kind of talk about my thinking, and maybe I'll construct something on the fly here. But race one is a 6 furlong dirt race for 2-year-old fillies, state bred, 77,000 here. I think your more than favorite is this 3 Miss Fashionista at 5-2. I think what do you got? One horse that's actually run. Oh, you got 3 horses that have run. You got 4 first-time starters. You don't got a lot of info to go on here. Caleb, where did you kind of land here?
Yeah, I sort of landed on, I guess, what I thought were the obvious couple here. I struggled to come up with like a strong opinion in this race just because there's so much unknown with these lightly raced horses, and none of the firsters just like scream off the page at me, but none of the horses with experience do a ton for me either. It looks like we do have, like you said, a scratch at the number 2, who I thought was a little bit usable in there. So I kind of landed on, I guess if I had a lukewarm selection here, it would have been the 6 horse Vax. I don't really love anything in this race, so it's more of what I don't like. The number 4 Bantera, I kind of put Asmussen in the category of like, Pletcher and Chad and Baffert, where if their maidens typically don't win in the first 2 starts, I quit betting them until something changes. Maybe they go to turf or drop down to maiden claiming. But this horse took money in both starts and was a disappointment in both starts. Went backwards in that second effort, so doesn't do much for me there. And then the 7 horse is the other horse with experience who just didn't really do any running. So the 1 horse is the one that does have a race under her belt that I will be including. But it seemed like yesterday that speed wasn't great on the main track, and we'll see. I know they got a bunch of rain. We'll see if it ends up turning the track over and his speed ends up holding today. But it looks like there's going to be a pretty strong headwind in the stretch. So, a pretty strong tailwind in the stretch. So I'm thinking closers might continue to have the edge, especially if it's that drying out, muddy kind of track. So I ended up landing, all that being said, on the 6. Sharp Azteca has been an extremely hot freshman sire. I don't think anybody really saw that coming, but at least I didn't. But it has really been very off to a hot start. Gets 15% debut winners at a very precocious dam sire, Carson City, who also spits out 17% winners. Five siblings to race, all 5 of which have won. And all of those who've raced at 2 did end up winning as a 2-year-old. So there's definitely some precocity in the pedigree here. The mud stats are a little unproven given the Sharp Azteca doesn't have a ton of offspring to have raced in the mud. But of the 11 starters, we've had, I think, 3 wins. So 27% so far, very limited sample size. But the bottom side also really enjoys the mud. with Carson City getting 19% winners in the slop. I just like the way this one comes in. Not the flashiest works, but a pretty good consistent schedule of works dating all the way back to July or August, basically. Castellano's been riding well. He takes the mount here. So I like Vax here as kind of my top pick, is maybe one of the less obvious of the first time starters, with the Pletcher horse likely taking all the money.
Yeah, our friend Matthew here, Matthew Bickey, he likes the 4 Bantera in race 1, which is one of the horses with a little bit of experience. You're against here though. It sounds like.
Yeah, I am. Nothing wrong with the first race, although as the favorite at 2-1, you maybe don't love to see a 6 length loss. Uh, Practical Joke has been an extremely precocious sire as well, and for this one to kind of flop as the chalk twice in a row, I've probably seen enough. This one can beat me. That last race bothers me.
I mean, it was Flavian Pratt aboard though, so he's getting a jock upgrade going to Jose Lascano here.
I don't know. I know how you feel about Lascano.
That actually, now that you mention it, yeah. Yeah, so Matthew thinks the 4 is getting a big drop in class. So, I mean, he's coming out of 2 key races in a row, but I don't know. I think that first race was definitely showed that the horse had something. I know lost by 6 lengths, but the third place finisher came back and won. So yeah, curious what happened that last race, but Matthew says big drop in class should be finding a slightly softer field here. So I haven't really checked to see what the weather looks like how muddy are we talking today?
I haven't seen the track, but I had Talking Horses on mute just to try to get a glimpse of it, and it says muddy and yielding. Actually, they just changed it to sloppy and yielding. So I'm guessing it's probably on the offside, to be sure. I don't think it's necessarily going to be one of those peanut butter drying out kind of tracks to start with. Anyway, it looks like the worst of the rain might be over, so maybe we get lucky and it does dry out a little bit later throughout the day. But I would probably play the first couple as being pretty wet.
Gotcha. Yeah, I didn't really I really like this 2 horse, and I didn't check scratches because I was doing other stuff after I capped. So I really like this 2 horse. I thought this 2 horse was going to be the mudder of the group. So unfortunate that they kind of scratched out here. Looking at the first timer report, it really did like the 3 in this spot, the Todd Pletcher horse. Kind of looking at the work pattern, and it's. I mean, Bernardini does well in the mud, but really no mud influence on the bottom side. Brisnet thinks this is the turf horse, which is interesting. So I don't really know. I think 5-2 is real sharp. I haven't looked. I mean, we're still 45 minutes out, so it's 8-5 right now. Matthew's pick, Bantera, has floated up a little bit, so I think there is a price for that 4 horse. And I mean the 4 horse also has respectable mud numbers here, so I don't know. Kind of going back, I am a little bit more interested in your 6 here. The 5 was the other kind of notable horse on the Firster report, and that says a lot because it definitely takes connections into consideration, and Mark Hennig is not good with first time starters. So the fact that this horse came up with a 4, I mean they must see something in the pedigree there, to think, even though I mean I don't understand, like I don't know what they like in this horse. I could probably look a little bit deeper in the report. I know they break it down, but I mean both the sire and dam sire not necessarily great first time starter numbers. So maybe I don't know, they got to see something. Maybe it's the work pattern or something. I don't know. But yeah, I think after the scratch of the 2, I'm gonna kind of land on the 6 here. I might use the 3. I got to kind of see what I got going on through the rest of it. I was not really interested in this one. The compared to what like even the 4 has run. is a little slow. So I'll probably just roll with first time starters in this race. So and we got another first time starters, and now this one was probably decimated by scratches, wasn't it? Let me.
There's only 3 scratches. I mean, it's only a 9-horse field, so a third of the field's out. The 2, 7, and 8 all scratched here,
Okay.
which, just kind of glancing at connections and pedigrees, I thought that was relatively obvious that those would probably be the 3 that would come out. The one I thought would scratch that I do not have as scratch, unless it was a late addition, is the number 6, Freitas the Red. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, to me, I mean, if you just look at the pedigree on this horse, I mean, a Japanese, sire out of Deep Impact, German on the bottom, a French breeding. This horse doesn't seem to me that it's going to want anything to do with the dirt. I'm a little surprised they're leaving this horse in, as I thought she had a big chance on the grass, but at 5-2, I'm going to stay far clear of Freitas the Red on the dirt, especially in the slop with that run style.
Yeah. I think I landed. I think here I'm gonna roll with this 3 horse. I think next. Um, this just seems to be your mutter here, Go Sapper and Smart Strike. Um, so if we really are going to be sloppy, I think this is kind of the horse that I'm going to lean on here in the spot 10-1 in the morning line. I'll probably get less than that now with 3 scratches, just fewer horses in here. But yeah, I don't know. I thought the 3 made a lot of sense from a mud standpoint. Um, you know, I thought maybe you could also look at the 9. The 9 I thought was another one with Migdalia de Oro and Unbridled Song there, 16, 18% respectively in the mud. So once again, kind of going with first time starters here, especially with the surface change. I thought that both those made a lot of sense on the mud side. Where did you kind of land here, Caleb?
Yeah, so I used 3 horses here, and 2 of them are ones you've already mentioned, largely for the reasons you've talked about. I don't particularly like Belmont first time starters, especially 2-year olds. But it sort of does get to the point where after the scratches and the surface switch, there's not a ton in this field. And like you mentioned, the 3 and the 9 both have some of the best off track pedigree in this field. So I think both Belmont horses, they're coming in here, they sold for a pretty pinch, or one's the homebred, seem to be pretty highly regarded. So I think they both make sense. The other one I'm going to use, who I expect will probably take some money given the scratches and may end up going off as the favorite, is the number 5, Justifiable Bell. These are not horses I normally want to bet, given the fact that it was a pleasure horse that debuted on the turf. It's not a move he does particularly often or is super high percentage with. But the horse ran fine. Zayjera, the horse that ended up winning that race, ran an absolutely huge number. Entered the race for the Phil Bauer barn with the last out best race and just absolutely trounced that field. Phil Bauer's barn was on fire all Saratoga meet basically. So I think that was a better race than it looked, even though she was beaten 5 lengths. She finished 3 lengths clear of the show horse and made an honest effort. I think that looking at the pedigree, I mean, Justify has been a good turf influence, but we all know he clearly handled the dirt as well. So I'm not too worried about the surface switch. I think this horse, but depending on what some of these first time starters do, has a chance to be the leader. Is the only horse that's really shown, somewhat of an ability to be somewhat forwardly placed of the horses that do have experience. And I always like second time starters over first time starters if I think there's any ability in that debut effort. So Castellano's been riding well. I think this horse might break on top, and if speed is holding, I think he may take him all the way. But I'm kind of with you as well on the 3 and the 9. So I'm using the 3, 5, and 9 here.
Justify wasn't any good in the mud though.
You're right.
Yeah, he was garbage in the mud. Um, Matthew here landing on the 9, so he's got River Oaks up here in as well. He likes the 4 La Vida Sofia, second time out for Rudy Rodriguez. Going to be running off the turf. Unbridled Song on the top, or Cross Traffic on top rather, which we said Unbridled Songs tend to do pretty well in the mud. So can see that there, and he also does like the 3 next as well. So he's
I
kind
do
of, it looks.
respect his 4 there. That's the one horse I sort of a question mark down next to. It didn't really take any money at the time. But if you remember the way that Rudy's barn was going at Saratoga, it probably isn't very surprising the horse took no money. I think Rudy ended up like 1 for 80 or something at Saratoga, just an unbelievable cold streak. He seems to be getting closer to his normal win percentage since coming to Aqueduct now. I'm showing about 13% in Brisnet. So it seems like he's kind of off the schneid a little bit. The horse appeared to have maybe a little bit of trouble early, had to kind of take up at the start, and then just sort of ran an even race after that. Uh, I don't mind the horse. I really don't. Not a horse that I could confidently back, but is the kind of horse that I think gets lost on the board and could surprise at a decent price.
All right. Race 3, 7 furlongs on the main track here. Once again, we think we're going to be pretty muddy or sloppy here. So I wrote down a couple of horses here who I thought were mud or with either high Tomlinsons or they had won pretty convincingly or won a couple times. And it kind of sucks because I think I just like landed on like the top 4 choices basically if you kind of went by that. So I don't know. I was kind of like really I think the only horse I didn't like very much in this spot was the 3 horse our Philly Special.
Who is
Has had
scratched?
scratch. Oh well, that makes even more sense. Great. So the one horse I didn't like that was a short price scratched. So as a single race, this makes this race basically unbettable for me. Um, I mean, I don't know. Maybe I like the 1 the best, but I mean on the rail, I don't know. The 5 American Lincoln has run some really nice races. I think in the mud. So that might be the one price that I kind of use here, but I don't know. Where did you kind of land here, Caleb?
Yeah, so I'm disappointed the 3 scratched because I didn't like that horse. And I thought not only was he likely to take a little bit of money, but I also thought he was going to add some pace to a race that I was trying to get to another horse in here that is not likely to be on the lead. So that scratch changed things for me. Initially, I was kind of looking at the 4 and the 2 as my top selections, who are now likely going to be your first 2 picks, unfortunately. The 4 is a horse that I'm not totally sure what to do with. Orlando Noda is one of those barns that's very hot and cold. So when he's hot, you really got to jump on him. But when he's cold, I mean, similar to Rudy we just talked about, you almost can't touch his horses. So far, he seems like he's having a pretty good start to the Aqueduct meet. He's only had 9 starters, but he's got 2 wins, and 7 of those 9 have hit the board. So I think that this is probably a time when he does appear to be heating up. He's very good first off the claim and excellent dropping off the claim. So claiming this horse for 25 and then turning him back, running him for 10 in here. And then he gets IRAD on board. So typically he does go to IRAD when he has a live one. But it is a little bit tough to endorse this horse at 3-1, given those last 2 efforts. Surely you can't hold the optional 45 against him when he's just in way over his head. But that state bred claiming 25 at Saratoga was not significantly tougher than the previous $25,000 claiming race he was in 3 back, and he just didn't show up at all as the favorite in that race. So it's a little concerning to take him off of those 2 efforts at a short price, which is why I ended up kind of leaning towards the 2 a little bit. But with the scratch of the 3, I begin to wonder if there's really going to be enough speed in this race to set up the 2. I had the 2 as a bet back from his race on July 28th, where I just thought he was off slower than the form would really indicate. He did break quite slowly. And in a race that was absolutely dominated on the lead, he was the only horse to really make up any ground. I thought that was a nice race. And that's kind of the only race that he has that sort of fits in his last couple. But that's also, the only race he's had in his last 4 that has been conducted over and off track. So I do think he's one that's going to be a little better over and off track here. Rosario takes the mount, who's winning at a very high clip so far. So I did like Lost in Rome, but again, the scratch of the 3 really throws a wrench into this race for me. And I guess I have to wonder, do you maybe give a look to a horse like the 6 in here, who is coming out of some very poor races, to be sure, but at least showed good speed in those races, going a mile, now cuts back to 7 furlongs. Always love cutbacks at a mile. And, maybe the horse just doesn't really care for Belmont or Saratoga. If you kind of throw out those races and look at what he's done at Aqueduct and Finger Lakes, the form actually looks pretty good, and he does kind of project to be controlling speed here as far as I can figure it. So do you have any thoughts on that 6, Josh? This feels like a you kind of horse.
Yeah, I looked briefly at the six because I kind of like you. I looked back at the aqueduct races, and those aqueduct races are completely different. I mean, even one pretty nice allowance race at a big price there, and came back here to Belmont. And just didn't really do much running. Went to Saratoga, just completely lost. I mean, maybe it's just the different class of horses that was facing. Um, but I did look briefly at the six. Has at least one race um, recently that does fit kind of like the par figures for Brisnet. So I don't think the horse is completely out of it. Like I said, I think my price play was more this five horse. Um, just kind of going back. I mean, the horse has got a couple wins on the off track. The horse has won four times at Aqueduct. I mean, it could have been much longer ago than you see on the form, but those Aqueduct dirt races don't look that bad. If you kind of go back to January and February of this year, and I think they kind of fit here. The horse likes the mud, and it has got a nice Tomlinson fig. So I thought the five kind of was my price play here. I don't think that Brisnett's got him marked as an E2. I don't think he gets the lead. I think he is forwardly placed, like no more than like a length and a half, 2 lengths off the leader. And I don't know. I kind of like you. Looking at yesterday, speed wasn't great. I know with rain, that it's going to completely change the track. So who knows? Maybe we see the first two wired and everything changes here. But I have a hard time getting past this race without including the two. So I might just use the two and the five. I was with you on the four. I was kind of unsure what to do with the four. It just seeing Noda's stats and his pattern with these types of horses, but like that scares me a little bit. But I mean, those last two races were so bad. Like, I mean, you're gonna need a miracle for this horse to win. Maybe Orlando Noda finds one. I mean, I don't know. Um, our friend Mark Capitan, I think he's going to like the state fair or something today. I don't know what he's doing, but he likes a three and the four in race one, Miss Fashionista and Bantera. So he looks like he's kind of combining mine and Matthew's picks there, and then he likes 4-9 in the second race, La Vida Sofia, which I think was the horse that you had mentioned, Caleb, liking that Rudy Rodriguez horse, and then obviously the 9 horse River Oaks, who is I think the Tomlinson horse in the spot. So. Um, but Matthew kind of chimed in. He likes the two. He likes the one a little bit here, and he likes the two. The two seem to be the only horse that fit um, on a couple of his bet mix figs. So, but let's
Yeah, it's a tough race. Like I said, the scratch really throws it off for me a little bit, where I probably can't be as aggressive to the two as I wanted to initially, just because I'm a little concerned about the pace now.
yeah. Uh, Race four. We're gonna be going a mile here on the dirt again. Optional claimer, and I think Mark's probably singling the two. Bees and honey, if I had to guess. But I, of course, really liked the Honey Money in the spot at what I thought was going to be an absurd price. And Honey Money scratched out of here. So I really have nothing interesting to add currently. Caleb, where did you kind of land here?
Again, I'm a little frustrated with the scratches here because I don't really like Rattlehouse, and I was planning on playing against her pretty aggressively actually. But her race just got a heck of a lot easier with Honey Money and Love and Love both scratching. It really kind of leaves her as the likely controlling speed, which she may have been anyway. But she was probably going to have to work a lot harder to secure that position with the 6 and 7 drawn to her outside. Now, I mean, I suppose maybe a horse like the 3 tries to go, but this is a horse that looks very out of form. And maybe the 5 tries to go, but hasn't been out in a long time. Don't know what we see off of this horse with some very spotty work patterns. So there's a chance Brattle House just secures an easy lead and keeps on going. With that being said, I just don't really think she's as good as billed. I mean, she beat up on some New York breds, and then got beat at 4-5 last time by 6 lengths to Betsy Blue. And I get it. Betsy Blue's a nice horse. She's really sharp right now. She came back to win. But at 4-5, when you're controlling speed, like you're not supposed to get beat by 6 lengths. I didn't think she was that good coming into that race. I still don't think she's that good. If the track turns out to be just an absolute, treadmill and nobody can pass, then maybe I'll revisit. But a horse I really do want to kind of get aggressive to here is the one Halo City. This is a horse that I've kind of liked for a while, who just continually keeps getting disadvantageous pace setups. I mean, if you look at time form, each of her last 4 races have the fractions color coded in blue, which indicate it's been slow paces. And this is a horse that does her best running late and does need a bit of a setup. But I really think, like I said, I loved it when the other speed was in here. She may be up against it from the pace perspective once again. But I think that, I'm still going to go back to the well with Halo City in here. If you look at her record, she seems to be much, much better over off tracks. She's 1 for 19 over a fast track, but 3 for 7 over an off track, and has never missed a trifecta in those 7 starts. And I also think that perhaps 6 furlongs may be a little shorter than she really wants to go. I mean, she does kind of fall very far behind in some of those shorter races. She does a little bit better at 7, but I really kind of think a 1 turn mile might hit her right between the eyes. If you just look at those 2 off track races on her record, they're showing on the screen at Laurel and Aqueduct, they were, by and large, 2 of her better efforts for sure. And I just really think that she's going to like the track conditions and like getting back to Aqueduct and at a mile. So she's one that I'm kind of hoping that, this murky pace setup, someone keeps Bridle House honest and the Halo City can come running late.
Yeah, Matthew Bickey likes the 3 here, Flash and Dynamite. Did you give this one any credence here?
I do not know. Horse has been quite poor since leaving Pennsylvania for the most part. That last race at Saratoga was very bad. Beaten 28 lengths. And then the turf race wasn't really much better. Just seems to really only show up at Parks for the most part. I get she does have a second way back a while ago at Aqueduct, but she was beaten 10 lengths on a 4-horse field, so I'm not really sure that she actually did. He did for second in that race. So no, not for me, but I'm sure you'll get probably 20-1. So, I mean, if you like her and think that she can, go out to the lead and maybe do something crazy, I mean, I guess take your shot.
Hey, fired a bullet. Fired a bullet before this. I mean,
and tell me you're a boomer handicapper without telling me you're a boomer handicapper.
Hey, last time this horse fired a bullet, ran that nice race at Parks. I mean, who knows? Oh yeah, Mark loves this 3. Speaking of the youngest boomer handicapper in the world, Mark Capitan likes the 3. Yeah. I really had a hard time getting around the 4. After like I said, I tried to get kind of creative here, and I looked hard, and I looked so hard at Honey Money, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna go with it, and obviously scratches. So I don't know. I think this sets up for the 4. I think gonna have it all her own way on the front end. So that's gonna be pretty tough. I did also like your 1, Halo City. And it was basically because of the off-track form. I know you had much more intelligent things to say, but when a horse hasn't missed a trifecta going on the off-track, has got 3 wins at the distance, I thought that horse made a bit of sense, even if the horse looked like it might need to improve a bit to get there. But I was interested in the 1 as well here. And then race 5, let me double check the scratches. There were a couple here. Was it the 2 and the 7? Neither of which I had, so that's good finally. But we're going to be going 6.5 furlongs here. We have a couple of 5s on the first report, which is the 1 and the 3 here, Cachase and Mount Up. But I was interested. Where did you kind of land here?
I really have no opinion in here, to be honest. The only horse I didn't like was the 7 for obvious reasons, and that horse scratched out. this is a difficult race for me. I'm not going to probably have much money going through this. It's a little annoying that it is the end of the pick five, and also obviously in the early pick four and things as well. But yeah, I mean, I guess if I sort of had to pick a direction, I mean, both Chad and Todd's horses both look good here. The one and the three. There's a lot of good off-track pedigree in this race. I mean, the one isn't into mischief. We know that they win early, they win often, and they win on pretty much everything, including off tracks. A horse makes a lot of sense. The three, Army Mule's a bit of a freshman sire who doesn't have a ton of starts under from his runners just yet. But this horse sold for 400 grand when the sire is for a $10,000 stud fee or $10,000 stud fee at the time, and then average only selling for 82,000. So clearly this horse must have turned some heads back at the sale in August last year. So this is one that I think you probably have to respect as well. Although I generally don't love Todd 2-year-olds. I feel like they often are very green and they kind of plod out of the gate. But the minute and four workout is somewhat encouraging. This horse may have a little bit of early speed. But I struggled here. I mean, I think you can look at a horse like the 4, who's a half to Yalpan and is likely to get bet. Good Magic, also a very hot name right now. I mean, the 5 has good off-track pedigree, but not really a barn that's had a ton of first-time outrunners yet, or therefore not much success with them either. So yeah, it was very tough. I mean, even the 8 is kind of the obvious boring horse, but I think this is a horse that could show up, has run a respectable race twice in a row, and should certainly appreciate an off track given the pedigree here. Adds the blinkers, maybe gets a little more involved early. There's a lot of ways you can go, and I struggled to latch on to any concrete opinions.
Yeah, what do you think of what do you think we get on this one? I mean, it's 8-1 in the book, but I mean, we don't get 8-1, right? We get half that?
Yeah, I don't think you get 8-1. I mean, it's tough. Like I haven't looked at work reports. I don't know if they're already out or not. Clocker reports. I mean, I would guess that honestly, unless their word is out on one of these firsters, which it may or may not be, I would expect almost every horse in this field to be between, 2-1 and 9-2.
Yeah, it's gonna be a tough race. I'm gonna lean
The 15 or the number 5 may not be quite that short. He might be closer to 10-1 or so. But I would expect every other runner in here to be in that 2-1 to 5-1 kind of range.
Yeah, I'm gonna lean heavily on this 1-3, and I think I mean I don't know. I have a hard time leaving this 8 off, but I I don't know. I mean, it does get a jock upgrade. You know how I feel about Manny Franco, right? But he gets a huge jock upgrade going from Trevor McCarthy to Manny Franco. So, um, I mean, maybe that'll be enough. Posted outside. Was on the rail both times at Saratoga, and um, especially with 2-year-olds, I always feel like like they're just not great out of those inside gates. So I think getting posted outside is going to be a little bit better for them. So I don't know. I think the 8's going to be tough to beat
Mhm.
here, but I'll probably lean on the 1 and the 3 here and see if we can
Yeah.
beat this 8.
That's a good point. I didn't notice that both starts were from the rail, which there were certainly some days the rail was not the place to be at Saratoga. I don't know if those were particularly days with a dead rail or not, but I do like the inside outside move here for the gate draw, plus adding blinkers. I mean, that's a good point. And I guess the only horse I didn't really talk about is this 6 who could easily win this race. It's Brad Cox and Rosario, out of a Spitestown sire who we know just loves the mud. I know the Tommies come back good, which seems to be the theme of the way you've seen some of these races. So any reason you're not using the 6?
Honestly, no. I really just kind of, um, I really just kind of looked at the, excuse me, the 1 and the 3. I really like the 1. I like the price on the 1. But now that you mention it, I mean the 6 is by Spitestown, which screams mud. So this might be a good spot here for the 6. 1 second, I'm like coughing up a lung here. Holy cow!
Yeah, I mean, there's so much off-track pedigree in here. There's so many big barns in here: McGahee, Chad, Todd, Cox. I mean, and the one horse that is out of a small barn has good form with the 8. So it's a tough race. Wouldn't fault anyone for actually taking an all here.
I would.
Well, all but one maybe.
All but one. Let me know what that one is though, so that way I can bet it. Um, yeah, I think this is an interesting sequence. We still got about 20 minutes before it goes off, but we got about 4 minutes before Churchill Downs starts off here. So I'm gonna put in my pick five ticket here real quick. Um, I'm gonna go with the one and the two here in this race, race one. Basically, just trying to, I don't know, it's a sea of shit, um, and I'm really just trying to get around this five. If I get boomed by one of the other horses, like so be it. But this five just better not win. I'm singling the Corrales horse in race two, the two Shell Shock. I thought that this horse. I think this horse is kind of disrespected on the morning line because he was racing. He did his like best racing at Ellis, but I don't know. I like this horse. I feel like has got a really like has got just figures that just fit in this race, and I mean I don't think we're gonna get 5-1. I'm actually gonna check the doubles because I'm sure um, there's no way that this two is gonna be. Oh, this two is gonna be
Yeah, I
a
mean, I didn't
price.
handicap the race, but five other than Corrales, I think that's for me maybe a tougher horse to get to. So, what'd you like about him? I mean, I guess the figures are okay. You're right; they did come back pretty strong, I guess, in that last Ellis race.
Yeah, I mean the figures
Yeah,
are
that's
okay. You know,
true.
broke his
Briz
maiden at
likes it quite a
Keeneland.
bit.
Yeah, Briz really likes it. I thought that this horse is going to be forwardly placed. Is going to be kind of your inside drawn speed. I don't think he's necessarily the speed of the speed. I think the three is faster, but um, and the six obviously has got some speed. But I don't know. Like I'm just in this short of a field. I feel like this is a good spot to kind of try and take a stand here. Brisnet just really likes it. I think the horse's pace figures match up really well because the other two speed horses in this race, if you look at kind of like the average pace figures, they really fall off on that late pace number, and the two does not. So even if the two doesn't get the lead, I think that he can kind of get a nice little like pressing trip there, sitting second or third, and get around it. So I don't want to go super deep in this because, like I said, I don't have a ton of strong opinions. So I'm just gonna kind of key around this two horse, um, and try and get here. I think I'm gonna probably be spreading in this maiden claimer here because I really didn't have a great um, a great opinion. I think I'm gonna end up using just like the one. I think I'm gonna use the four and the six in this spot. Um, Race four. I thought there was another single here in the four Runaway Magic. Luis Saez coming in on a speed horse on the dirt at Churchill Downs. Thank you very much. I think that this is kind of the same thing. There is other speed in here, but it's definitely cheap speed. The four has definitely got a little bit of a nice late pace figure there. I think his figures are just way better than anybody else. And then race five, I'm kind of going to be eating a chalk here a little bit. I'm just going to take the top two choices in the two Prairie Dunes, the five Dennington, and the 10 Tappett's Conquest. Nothing like super. Nothing like super interesting here. I just think these horses have all these horses basically have starts except I think for no, they all have starts and except for the nine. I have no interest in this nine. And all these other horses they ran, I couldn't really separate them, so I was just going to kind of use all three of them. Nothing super creative there. I think really the value I'm going to see are in these first two races. So I'm also going to come back and play a double as well with the 1-2 to the two. So let me get this bet in here. Hopefully I get it in.
Simply because I'm a DGen. I'm going to play a $3 double in this first race at Churchill. Big spender over here for God's track. I'm going to play a 2-2 double for not. I'm going to trust you on that two in the second race because I don't really handicap it, and I like Corrales. And then the two here, I actually ran a Z pattern in that first start for the new trainer who is 30% out of 10 starts and second start with trainer, 80% hitting the board though, and a huge positive $6.42 ROI. Taking a stab here, this horse maybe figured something out with the new barn change.
I don't think that I didn't think that the 2 was they just got out the gate. I kind of agree with you. The 2, I did see that like little kind of Z pattern. The horse, faded and came back. So that was one of the big reasons I used it. Francisco Arietta off to a slow start, but I think he's a pretty decent jock. So and he's usually pretty aggressive. Looks like he's not aggressive here. He's kind of sitting in that second flight there, sitting in looks like in fourth here on the rail.
Yeah. I don't know who wins this race, but I really don't think it's the 5. I'm not convinced this horse wants any piece of a mile and an eighth. Granted, maybe he found the field bad enough to where he can he can stumble his way home. But yeah. So who'd you end up using here again, Josh?
I got the 1 and the 2.
Okay.
So the 1's sitting way in the back is kind of this lone closer.
Yeah, he looks like the horse that probably wants the distance more than anybody.
They're going pretty slow though, so I wouldn't be
How
surprised.
has Churchill been playing? Has it been all speed? Like,
yeah, I definitely
well
thought the 2. I definitely thought the 2 was going to be more aggressively ridden. So
yeah, you would have hoped so, right? A bit of a questionable ride here.
Yeah, I think this 4 might be able to fight off this 5 because this 5 looks like he's just pumping, but no, it looks like he's finding though.
We're going to stagger down the lane here.
Oh, look, this 1 coming up the rail, but I think he's going to stop right about here.
Yeah, 5 maybe just. Oh, the 1's got some run. Maybe.
I think he's running out of room though.
I don't think the 5 sees the 1. Well, now he does, but I think it's too late.
Oh, get up, baby!
Hey, oh, he's home. He's going 1 by 2.
There we
Nice.
go.
Good pick. Yeah, the 1, I mean, so, these kind of races, I'm like, shit, like a mile and an eighth is not a common distance, especially for 3-year-olds. The 8th's the only horse in the field that seems like he may have genuinely wanted a mile and an eighth. Maybe the 3, although I really think that's a turf horse. So, yeah, I think that was a good pick.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they tried this horse on synthetic. They tried it on turf, and they tried it on dirt last time out. And it just didn't. There was really nothing there. Some of the figures looked like they would be okay in this group, even though, like I said, they were just not great. But this kind of seemed like the horse, at least, that had is making his way down the ladder. And I think just finally found the soft enough spot. So,
well done.
Yeah, let's see what these will pays are. There is a very important question in the chat from Jimmy Two Eyes. He says, "What's the backstory of Caleb and Alpha Zulu 30 for 30 video?" I don't know if you want to tell that, Caleb.
Oh, there was oh god, what has it been, like 3 years now, maybe? So yeah, I've long been known to go on rants about the older turf marathon division on how, for what felt like a solid 2 years, these horses would just take turns beating each other. Channel Maker would win a race, Zulu Alpha would win a race, Arklow would win a race, Sadler's Joy would win a race, and then maybe Channel Maker shows up again. But it's like the same contenders. There's no standouts. There's no consistency. And it was just aggravating as all hell to me. So I remember, I made we had a stream on Kentucky Downs. It was actually that, it was the big Kentucky Downs, the mile and 5/16 race. I forget what it's called, like the turf TVG. Is that the TVG one now? I think.
Isn't it the Kentucky Downs Turf Cup or something?
The Turf Cup. Yeah, that's what it is. And it was like Arklow and Zulu Alpha and somebody else, and I forget who I ended up backing. And anyway, I get boomed by Zulu Alpha like at the wire, and one of our viewers at the time sent me in a custom printed T-shirt. Friend of the show, Stephen Fox, Evil Bob Dole, that said, "I tried to beat Zulu Alpha, and all I got was this T-shirt." So ever since, kind of the meme and legend has been born. He also came back and then beat me again. I've bet against him in every race of his career since that race. He cost me quite a bit of money when he did win, but probably none more so than when he won the Pegasus World Turf race and beat Magic Wand, was it? the European filly. I forget
Yeah,
her name.
Magic Wand, the horse that kept on running. It kept on running like second
Yeah, I
here in
kept
the
running
U.S.
second and
Yeah,
like ran like 15 races in like 12 countries or something that year. So yeah. So yeah, the meme was born, and with Zulu Alpha's retirement, I guess the meme's been put to rest.
yeah, and unfortunately, we got you a channel make. They got you a channel maker hat, not a Zulu Alpha hat. So,
Well, Channel Maker is another who has I've been on the wrong side of more than a couple times ever since that -1 Thorograph like 3 years ago.
that's so funny. Oh man, yeah, you just could not get on the right side of that horse, and yeah, well, we've all been there. Um, FYI, the story about the bar, true story. That did happen. I wasn't there, but it did happen.
That also is a true story.
Oh man. Well, I have a nice little will pay here at Churchill here. We'll see in 22 minutes. See if we get there. I think I bet a $10 double with the 1 and the 2 to the 2. It looks like it's going to be paying about $300. So it's
Very
$60 for
nice.
two. So
That's
hope we
great.
get there. And yeah, we how much time we got here for a little Belmont? Oh, we got 7 minutes.
We've got 7 minutes. You want to stick around for the next race?
Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna see if I can put in a pick 5 here as well.
I'm gonna put in a cheap pick 5. Like I said, that last race is giving me fits because I don't have strong enough opinions to really take them all in that last race. I don't think, but I am gonna put in a little pick 5. I got one in here. I'll put it in the chat so you can pull it up.
Cool. I'm just putting.
Well, you can put up. You can't do screenshots. I'll need to type it.
That's fine.
Okay. But yeah, I'll kind of talk through it as Josh goes and digs it up or gets his own ticket in. So I used the 1, 3, and 6 in the first race. What I thought were the kind of the obvious horses. I am going to include that one just because proven speed with the rail in a 2-year-old race on an off track. I'm not going to let that horse beat me. The second place horse came back from that race and ran huge as well. So, my top pick probably would be the 6, and then I do like the 3, who seems to be taking a lot of money right now. So I got 1, 3, 6 in the first race here. In the second race, I used the 3, 4, 5, and 9. So I guess I inadvertently used most of the field there, except for the 1 and 6, I guess. We already talked about the 3, 5, and 9. I threw the 4 in simply because I think that horse will be a price. And if Matthew likes it, I don't hate it. Josh doesn't hate it, and Mark likes it. Then I'm going to include that horse because I think he'll be a price, or she'll be a price. In the third race, I used 2, 4, and 6. I talked about the 2 and the 4, and we did kind of talk about the 6 maybe having the pace advantage there. I think there was Josh liked the 1 a little bit, who I do respect, but I just didn't really want to go any deeper in that race. In the fourth race, I'm singling the 1. That's Halo again, the horse I talked about. Brattle again could beat me here for sure, but I just can't justify using that horse plus another horse in this race when field sizes are already pretty small. And if she wins, combined with my other opinions in the other races, I don't think this pick 5 pays $100, and I'm okay with missing that one. And then in the fifth race, I cut it down to the 1 and 3. I truly feel like you could make a case for every horse in the field. But I'm kind of leaning on the first time starter report in this race put out by our friends at HRN. I've had very good success using that lately, and they seem to like the 1 and 3 the best. The 1 has a great off-track pedigree, for 2 of the best barns, on the grounds right now with Todd and Chad. And while I would not be an ounce surprised if the 4, 6, or 8 end up winning, I just wanted to keep that ticket pretty cheap since I do think I don't think we see a huge payoff in this early sequence. So it's only a $36 ticket, and thinking if I can get Halo again in, who I will be doubling into and out of as well, maybe look to pick up 500.
Yeah, I think we are kind of similar here. I got a 50-cent pick 5 ticket here, also $36. I got the 3, the 5, and the 6 in the first race. I'm gonna use this 3. The first to report really likes it. Shout out HRN. And then the 5 and the 6 once again are firster horses. So we'll just want to get through this leg. Next leg, I got the 3 and the 9. The 3 is definitely a mud pedigree horse, as well as the 9. So once again, kind of trying to get around some short priced horses on the morning line. See if we get and like I said, I know this is going to be off the turf, so the morning line is basically irrelevant. But the next race, I went with the 1 runabout, the 2, and the 5. I went with the 1 and the 5 as kind of like your pace setters, because I kind of agree with you. Like it might be tough for this 2 to get the pace set up here. So I'm going to use the 2 horses that I think are going to be on or near the front end that have a little bit of mud pedigree, or 1 in the mud, and then I'll use this 2 as well. I hate to do it, but I might have to call a defensive dealer myself there using the 2, but we'll go there. Leg 4, I got the 1 and the 4. Halo City, kind of the horse that you're singling, and I'm not gonna let Brattle House beat me. I think Brattle House is gonna get it all his own way, or her own way on the front end, but I do like Halo City quite a bit there. And then race 5, I think you and I are on the same 2 horses, the 1 and the 3 here, going with the first to report. We'll see what kind of price we get on this one, but I think a couple of these races are completely unbettable from a single race perspective. So let's see if we can make a little bit of money here going horizontally. It's $36. If that's what you're spending on a pick 5 ticket and you get a couple hundred back, I think you're usually pretty happy. Even they can't all be 10K hits. So let's see if we can get live here. I don't have the feed up because I don't know what I did with my Naira Bets window. There it is. We got 2 minutes of per post here. Take a look at chat.
Yeah. I think Matthew's got a ticket.
Matthew's got a ticket here. He's going to be singling the 4 here in leg 1. He's got 3, 4, 9 in leg 2, 2, 6 in leg 3, 1, 3, and 1, 5, 6. You looking at any tournaments or anything today, Caleb?
Yeah, I'm in the Naira Bets tournament with Pops. He actually finished like 3rd last week without me.
You?
Without me, so I think we figured out what the problem was. Since I was not playing last week, so I'm gonna let him make the calls since clearly he's got it down. And I have not been seeing the ball very strongly or very well at Aqueduct the last week or so. We'll see though. Off tracks or something that a lot of people struggle with. So maybe you can find a bit of an edge there. I mean, looking at the track, on a live feed right now, it seems it seems wet to be sure. I mean, it's not. I don't see any standing water necessarily, but it's definitely sloppy for sure. So we'll see how much, with the winds being pretty strong today, we'll see how much that dries out or if it kind of stays wet all day. But as far as tournaments go, I'm in the Naira Bets one, and then debating jumping into maybe like just one of the $56 feeders for a BCBC low ratio. BCBC is like probably the only tournament the big tournament anyway, that I would like actually care to win and like routinely be a part of, but I don't want to spend the $10,000 to buy in. So we'll probably try to. I think the best way to get into those is probably that $56 feeder into the low ratio $500 contest. So may try one of those, but it really depends on what I think of the filler field races. So it's usually like Woodbine or Laurel or Golden Gate or something. So if I can feel like those are approachable races, I might jump in. Otherwise, I might just wait and see what tomorrow is.
I can't imagine why you wouldn't want to go to the NHC after what we saw this week.
Well,
I know Matthew's a big tournament player, so I'm sure he's got lots to say about that nonsense.
They didn't even try to hide it either. I mean, didn't even try. It's like one different pick, just ridiculous.
I forgot who it was, but someone said that she hadn't earned any tour points until the other guy, her husband, was double qualified.
Which
hadn't even earned a point, hadn't even
entered a contest, right?
Yeah. God, man. But and that's a funny thing, right? Like, it's one thing to the rake portion of it is egregious, right? For me, I kind of forgive it a little bit because if you get in via a live contest, it is not a 10K entry. I think they value the live entries like much lower, like it's like 4 or 5 grand or something, which I think is more in line with what people think would value that seat at, right? Until they raise the prize pool, right? If they raise the prize pool, then I think it makes sense to be a $10,000 entry. But the way it's set it right now, 10,000 is really is fucked up. Um, but or I think he's saying 3,800. Um, so like the rig part's one thing, but like and like it's a trip to Vegas, like as a not a professional horse player, like being in that room was really fun. Like hanging out with Shu, hanging out with Bobby, hanging out with Mark and stuff. Like it was cool to be there. Like and like for that reason, like I see why people like get excited to go because it was a blast. Like we had a blast that weekend, right? The tournament basically was almost secondary, but also like I didn't get in because I only played in the last chance, first chance. So it's coming from a different place, but like you're
Yeah.
sitting at a table with a bunch of your buddies as they're loading into the gate here, and like yeah, you bounce ideas off each other, but at the same time, like you're the one going into the machine and putting the ticket in, right? And like no one is telling me what to bet. So that's like one thing, right? It's like when we're at the track together, right? And we're bouncing ideas off each other. But man, just like some of this stuff, like not playing against each other and multiple entries, I don't know, man. It leaves a real bad taste in my mouth. Um,
I mean, you can get that experience without being a part of the NHC. I mean, you guys had a blast, and the only one that was in the NHC, I think, was um, who was it? There was one person that was actually in, right? Shoot,
well, Shu was in it. Bobby was in it.
and Bobby.
Yeah.
But I mean, you, Mark, Gary. I mean, you guys are just there to hang out and like. Yeah, I mean, there's much cheaper ways to get to Vegas without having to, run yourself dry trying to qualify for an HC and then getting 40% take or whatever it ends up working out to be.
I think it's cheaper to get to Vegas the way I get there, which is on slot machines.
It probably
Isn't
is.
that kind of funny?
Yeah, I think. I think Matthew is probably right. Cash games are probably the way to go. I think that's uh, the way I would probably try to. I mean, even better than feeders or qualifiers, to try to get it on cash games or whether it's winner take all or whatever your game is. I mean, I think those all make sense.
Well, this is holy
Four
cow.
with some surprising speed out of the gate, but the one was pretty intent on getting the lead there. So we'll see how much energy that kind of sapped out of the two front runners because it looked like they were both pretty hard used.
All right. Any of these horses in the second pack, please?
I mean,
the one looks cooked.
Three's making up ground. The one looks like he's in trouble. The four might be a handful. Matthew might be onto something here.
Oh no. I'm gonna get Bicky, aren't I?
Yeah, I think we both are. He's
and
gone.
Of course Mark had it too. That son of a bitch, Mark.
Good pick, Matthew.
That fucking rat.
He's gonna win by as many as he wants.
Man.
Look at
Wow.
that.
I'm starting to think that Matthew just likes coming on here just to like big time us.
I think so.
Every single time, man, he comes in here and he's like, what are you guys doing? This is clearly the horse. And we're like, dude, are you sure? And then, no, there goes the horse, man. Nice pick, Matthew. Well, on the plus side, I didn't really like the sequence that much, so I have no desire to run back to pick 4. So,
well, do you think that the 4 just needed a jockey upgrade from Jose and Flavian to Lescano the whole time?
I mean, that's true. That Pratt upgrade.
But
yeah, he's like,
yeah, tough. It's still a tough one for me to get to, but all the props for coming up with them.
No, I mean, I think you kind of said it right. That first race did show that the horse had some ability, and that second race was just a huge question mark. And horse comes back, and
and maybe I was a little lazy. I don't know if there was anything in that race. Maybe the horse had some subtle trouble that's not noted in the lines. I didn't watch the replay, but good pick. And the Saratoga races generally are a lot stronger than these Belmont and Aqueduct races. So I think that the class drop, I think he said about bet mix probably does make some sense here.
Matthew said, you remember when you asked about the best jocks in the mud last time he was on?
Lescano. I don't associate him as being a good mud jock, but I also don't associate him with being like a good jockey either. Well, I don't know if I would say that, but like like I probably consciously downgrade IRAD on off tracks. I don't think he's very good at reading track bias. He kind of rides his race every time. I think Castellano's a guy who kind of does get it usually, although I don't know what he was doing that race. Maybe he just had no horse. But yeah, maybe Lascano is one I got to watch out for more because I don't typically, I don't have any association with him on an off track versus a fast track. But maybe that's something to pay attention to.
Is there anything worse than checking the simulcast feed and both the simulcast hosts have your horse as the top pick?
No, that's probably the worst, especially if it's like
Uh,
Sterling.
Well, luckily it wasn't Sterling. It's Joey K and Scott Shapiro, but
I
they
mean,
both
they're
have
okay.
they both have the 2 as their top pick in this race here, race 2 at Churchill Downs. Um, Taking a lot of money is 3-1 right now. Third choice, but it's a very flat race. You got the 6 is your favorite at 2-1. You got the 3 at 5-2. 2's 3-1. The 1 is 4-1, and then 6 and 8, 6-1 for the 4, and 8-1 for the 5. So, oh yeah. So he's talking earlier points he just done his own play 3 years ago when he was close on points. He spent like $5,600 trying to qualify through feeders, and he didn't get in. Hasn't played
Yeah,
one since.
we've had
I'll
a
tell
lot
you.
of lots of internal conversations. One of our former on the wrong lead members, Brian, was always kind of posting the question as far as how does what amount of money makes sense to put on feeders or qualifiers versus buying in. And I recognize you can't buy into NHC, but that's kind of unique. Whereas other contests, you generally have an amount that you can just buy in for, like BCBC or the big one or whatever else. And at what point does it just kind of not make sense to do it, or does it ever make sense to try to qualify or win a feeder versus just trying to buy into some of those contests? And I think a lot of people have probably come to similar realizations as Matthew, is that those 56 or $179 feeders or whatever they are end up they can add up pretty quick over the course of a year if you're playing one a week.
Yeah, I think now, if I'm gonna try and qualify into something, I'll play like 2 or 3, and if I don't get in, then I just don't play it. But that's also because like to me, what's the Keeneland contest? $3,000.
I think 3,000.
Yeah, 3,000 or something, 3 or 4,000, somewhere around there. Like to me, that's just like way too much to like buy into something. Um, uh, m- if I'm feeling good, I may buy into like $1,000 contest. Like that's like my top, and that would have to
Mm-hmm.
be like something like special. I play a couple of $500 contests here and there, a couple of $300 ones, like the Naira ones, but like yeah, like in that case, like I'm not going to buy into them, like so. But I think Shu Sheldon was also talking about how well just play cash games and win through the cash games and then buy in. He's like the rake is less, and like like there's it's not as top heavy,
Yeah.
right? So like you place well, like you could place well in like 3 or 4 feeders and get nothing back, or if you placed well in 3 or 4 cash games, you probably would get something. So
Yeah. I remember, I think it was last year, I was playing a lot of Kentucky Downs tournaments and doing pretty well. And I entered, like, I think it was a qualifier for that Keeneland challenge and then just a cash game. Played the same picks in both contests. In the cash game, I think I finished, I don't know, fifth. And it was like the 179 entry. So, like, not huge dollars. But I mean, I think I won like a little over $1,000, maybe like 1,200 or something like that. But in the qualifier, I finished like eighth or ninth and didn't get anything for the same picks. Like, I don't know what it is. If people maybe just stab at more bombs in those qualifiers, because typically, the payout schedule is more top heavy and you don't really get much for fourth, fifth, and sixth. But that was eye opening to me, is that generally it does seem easier to end up in the money, so to speak, or if not outright win. Because I mean, even looking at the winning score was higher in the qualifier than it was in the cash game. And I don't know if it's maybe that was just a freak thing, but I remember that very clearly, and definitely had me kind of take a step back from trying to play all these qualifiers.
got 4 minutes to this race here. See, yeah, this 2 is sitting at your second or third choice here. So Yeah, Matthew's saying the bigger the entry fee, the more conservative people play. Yeah, I mean, honestly, that's one of the big things about cash games. And what people always say about guys like Tony Joe or even like Tommy Massis, right? Like to them, like they're just gonna fire real big at one of their opinions. They're gonna put their whole bankroll on it, and then like someone like me, right? Like say I qualified for BCBC, right? Say just like some off chance, I pull a Caleb, I turn $179 entry or whatever it was into a BCBC seat. Like you think I'm gonna fire $8,000 or $7,500 to win or place or show or something on the horse that first day? Like absolutely not. Which is kind of like I said why like playing those like something like NHC for me, like the format would be much better because like it's not real money, like it's just it's all
Mm-hmm.
theoretical. So like yeah, like sure, I'll put my mythical win place
Yeah,
bet on
mythical $4
whatever.
down.
Yeah,
It's a
versus
lot
like
harder to just walk and just put a $3,000 win bet on a horse and just like slam it on the table.
yeah, but some guys can do that. Some guys are built for that. Some guys have the bankroll for that. I don't know if I have any of those three. So, um, but yeah, right there, Matthew's saying he's like you got to look at it as monopoly money in cash games. But yeah, he says he budgets to be there in the last, so he never goes all in until the last race. Yeah, there's lots of like tournament theory and stuff you can think about for that. Um, but Caleb, at this second race at Churchill Downs, I know you probably didn't even look at it, but was there anything you liked here?
I don't really like anything. My kind of my just first intuition is it felt like there's a lot of speed in the race, but it's also a 5.5 furlong sprint. So how often do those actually kind of melt is my question. But I mean, it looks like, I mean, to me anyway, it sort of looked like the 2, 3, 4, and 6 all sort of want to be forwardly placed and want to be involved. Um, so I kind of gave like maybe a glance to this one, but I guess he is taking more money than I would have wanted him to. I
No,
know
the
he floated
one
up from the
the
morning
one
lines.
floated up, yeah.
Yeah, I was looking at the morning lines. I mean, I thought the one might be able to. I mean, we just saw that one horse come from pretty much dead last to get up and win that last race. Now, how much was that a function of just horses that weren't bred to get the mile and an eighth? I think that's probably a big part of it. But I do like your two. I mean, I do think he has. It looks like he was closing in that last race, even though he didn't really pass any other horses. He doesn't. He may not be a need the lead type. So I mean, I think the one or the two both look pretty good here. I mean, the 6 also sort of fits that maybe closing run style, but I really hate dramatic changes in distance, whether it's a cutback or a stretch out. And going from a mile to 5.5 is pretty extreme. It just seems like they don't know what this horse wants to do. So I don't really care for the 6, especially at 2-1.
Yeah, it's interesting. They I mean, yeah, this horse has never run at this distance, it looks like per Briz. Ran a couple at 6 and 6.5. Um, but I mean 5.5 is just a different beast. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, I kind of was looking at trying to get some value out of this race. So I saw the two, and I just kind of was like, all right, like I'm going with it, and it seems like other people also like this too. It's taking a bit of money, so we'll for some reason I think YouTube was trying to censor Matthew. I think because he said shitty, but he said what he hates is the shitty churn rules that require 20% of bankroll in 5 races rather than 10% in 10. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I do agree with that. There has to be minimums, not I think that's fair. You just don't want someone dropping their entire bankroll on one opinion. Like, I don't mind the fact that there are minimums, but I don't like it when your minimums take up your entire bankroll. If you have $1,000 bankroll, I don't want to have 5 bets at $200 a pop. I mean, make it 5 bets at $100 a pop or 3 bets at 200. I don't care what it is, but just like I hate it when the minimums are your entire bankroll. Not that that really matters. You can still go all in on your best opinion, but at that point, you have to do some goofy stuff like show betting chalk until you end up getting to your best opinion or whatever else, and then going all in.
Matthew does like the 6 here.
Well, 6 is probably going to wrong.
Yeah, the 6 is in the
given the
wrong.
way he called the first one. But he said the 5 is all over his data, which the 5 I think is interesting. Kind of the other closer besides the 1, perhaps. But not really sure how well the horse will handle the dirt after spending all that time on the synthetic. But well, they're off, and the 2 is not getting probably the smoothest trip in the world.
No, and he's dead last. So and I don't see 21 on there. So
22 and 3 has to be just like crawling for Churchill at 5.5, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they have those huge run ups at 6 and 6.5. I mean, you always see 21 and change, but I don't know what the run up is at 5.
I mean, hey, maybe Gerardo thinks that there's a closer bias, and maybe he's going to try and sneak up the rail.
Yeah, he might. He better hope there is.
Oh man, here goes the 6.
Yeah, looks like Matthew 2, Caleb 0. Although at 7 to 5, I don't feel too bad about that one.
Well, both my pick 5's dead.
That's unlucky, man.
Hey, at least my horse finished dead last. Pays the same as if you finished second.
Yeah, it pays the same with less heartbreak.
Which is true. It's very true. Yeah. So I don't know. Yeah, it was fun talking to races with you, Caleb. I know it's been a while since we've been able to do a Saturday together. Hopefully, coming up we'll have some better racing to talk about. I know Churchill's not exactly your favorite, and Aqueduct being sloppy is pretty tough. But
when does Keeneland open? I know it's got to be coming up, right? It's usually they run October, so it's got to be next weekend, right?
I think so. I think it is next weekend.
Let's see. It looks like it's
the 7th.
7th. Good. So this is kind of one of those awkward in between weekends. We'll have some good racing at Keeneland, but I think we're kind of at that time of year where all eyes are kind of looking ahead to the Breeders' Cup, so should be fun.
Yep. What anything in particular that you like at Santa Anita tonight?
I mean, we kind of covered a lot of it. I think on the stream for the most part. I haven't really gone through and like looked at scratches or even see if there are scratches for that matter. But no, nothing too crazy. I mean, I think that most of it we kind of talked about. I think probably a horse that I'm going to lean heavily on is going to be that Island of Love in the 9th race, who I think is just getting back to the right distance and should be able to maybe get the job done, cutting back from 1 1/8 back to 6.5 down the hill. So yeah, that's probably where I'm going to be putting a good chunk of my money in here. In the early races, I didn't really find anything I loved. So, yeah, just kind of going to wait and see. I haven't seen scratches yet or anything. We don't got to worry about weather because it's California. But, it should be a good day.
I thought Matthew, aren't you in Pittsburgh or where are you at? You said, are you going to be at Keeneland this fall? I don't think I'm not planning on going as of right now. I was looking into Breeders' Cup, but I don't think that's going to happen either. But we'll see. I mean, for me, I got the time off. Oh, he's West Virginia. That's right.
It's West Virginia, man. How do you not know that?
Does your dad flies into Lexington, doesn't he?
No, Dad's going to drive.
Oh, he's going to drive?
Yeah, it's only like 5.5, 6 hours, I think.
Oh, so like the same for me. Wow. Okay.
Mm.
Yeah, I think it's like 6.5 for me or 6, somewhere around there. I always forget because not Lexington. What's the Louisville is like what, an hour from Lexington ish?
It's about an hour to the west. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's always like 5 hours, 5.5 hours. That extra hour, man, is just like makes that drive is so much worse.
You remember you had traffic last time you came in, didn't get in till like 1 in the morning or
like
something.
1, yeah, because I left after work and I was like, oh yeah, I was like, I'll get in at like 11, and then I was like, oh, the time changed, all right, midnight, and then I hit like an hour's worth of traffic, in like the middle of nowhere in Indiana, because they were doing construction or something. So, but it is what it is. But yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. Catch us at ontherwronglead.com, at @wrong_lead on Twitter. We will be live again on Thursday. We'll probably be looking at Keeneland and any other kinds of winning your ins that are going on. The next Saturday, we'll probably be talking Keeneland. But yeah, I will leave you with the aforementioned video.
What if I told you that the perfect man did exist, but he was cursed? I mean, he's just a complete handicapper. East Coast, West Coast, Midwest. Might be the best I've ever seen. He could be the best looking guy in all of horse racing. I mean, he gives Matt Bernier a run for his money. I mean, we all saw it. He was minding his own business, walking back from the bathroom. Hottest girl in the bar just grabs him and says, "Reel me in." Turns out you can't always be that lucky, though.
Zulu Alpha charges up the rail under Tyler Gaffleon and takes the lead late. Zulu Alpha wins the Pegasus World Cup turf.